Hello and welcome to episode 347, I think, of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and highway
You're on a
robbery
boat.
for Florida State. I cannot believe that Florida State didn't get into the college football playoff. I can't believe that the committee decided on their own that they interpreted that they didn't think Florida State was as competitive as Alabama, and I don't think you can do that.
No.
The defense that Florida State showed in that game was incredible.
Incredible.
And who's to say they wouldn't do that for two games and win the whole thing? But it's just wrong. I mean, but again, I always get back to the same thing. When you look at the composition of the people on the committee like that, it's not like they're neutral people. It's not like they don't have a vested interest.
No. It's been, like I said, I honestly, after yesterday's 27-24 Alabama win over Georgia, I thought there was a chance we were going to get Georgia and Alabama. And Texas was going to be on the outside looking in, even though they dominated Alabama.
Yeah. I just don't understand it.
No. Yeah, so
Georgia, I really assumed that Oregon was going to win, and I guess I didn't get to see that game either. And they came back and made that a close game. But those were two really good games this year. I think the same score both games, 34-31.
Yeah, we had some really great football yesterday. And, congratulations to Washington. I think we both decided that's who we're rooting for, right?
Yes.
We're going to be.
I mean, Michael Penix has just done amazing things there.
He has.
And he's fun to root for. I mean, he works hard, he does his thing. And I'm rooting, Washington's been under the radar, and, they're in there. And, begrudgingly, I guess, George will say they're better than Washington and everything else, but.
Yeah, and I know the last couple of weeks when we've started speculating, we just figured if Michigan wins out, they're in, and they were in. The winner of the Pac-12, be that Oregon or Washington, especially Washington being undefeated, would be in, and they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seemed like Florida State just had to beat Louisville, and it seemed like they were the obvious choice.
And then I think we kind of assumed Georgia would beat Alabama, and then it would be the four teams in.
Right, but then you have to wonder, would they have put Texas in over Florida State still?
Well, I think based upon what we saw yesterday, they would have, yeah. They had decided Florida State could not be competitive, and I just think that's wrong.
I think so, because, you can't do it. If you're Florida State, you go 13-0. There's really literally nothing else you can do.
No, and I mean, if you can, and you win games with your second string quarterback, and you win a game with your third string quarterback. To me, that says you're a very good team.
You're a great team.
Yeah.
And again, did I mention? I know I talked about it off the air, but the Florida State quarterback literally said, "I wish I broke my leg earlier in the year so you could see how good this team is without me." He's like, "I should not have been a factor in us not getting into the playoffs," which I assume that had to have been some kind of a factor, right? Where they were just like, "Well, they lost their quarterback. We'd rather put in a one-loss team than them."
I think that's the only factor.
Yeah.
No, I just thought it was really wrong. Really wrong.
Now, we're rooting for Washington, but if you were to, as they say, bet your house or bet something important on it, who are you betting to win it?
I mean, Alabama's played really well since they've lost to.
Yeah.
They lost the game to Texas. They played really well. Texas is playing really, really, really well. Michigan really hasn't been challenged all year.
No, Michigan is in that weird spot where I know Ohio State has won a national. They've won the chip in the last, decade, but I feel like I view them as the competition they play just doesn't feel like I don't know who they are, I guess.
Exactly. But, I would legitimately say any of those four teams could win.
Yeah.
I don't think, to me, I don't see there being a favorite.
No.
They're all playing really, really well, and, they're going to be good games. I just, again, we should have had more than four teams 4 years ago.
It's true.
And it's just stupidity. I mean, and this is the perfect year. That would have been a really, really, if it had 8 teams, that would have been a great playoff.
Oh, without a doubt.
But again, it's too much self-interest. It's too much, well, we don't want to split the money. We don't want to do this. We want to make sure we get our money. I mean, that's the whole SEC thing. They're going to get a nice check, and they're going to be pissed off they didn't get 2 shares instead of 1.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the discussion was we can't put them both in or it's really going to look bad on us.
No, so
And do you think
at
this
least I can't
completes?
complain about Oklahoma State. They got hammered.
They did. And I guess the other big college football news is: do you feel like this secures Michael Penix as the Heisman winner?
No, I like the favorite now is the LSU quarterback.
He has been awesome, but I mean they've lost 3 games, right?
I know, but
I
I
mean,
guess the guys in Vegas have him as the favorite.
I'm not gonna lie. I would love to see him wearing black and gold next year instead of purple and gold or purple and yellow.
And no question.
But
And I'm looking at all these mock drafts, and I don't understand why Bo Nix is in the first round pick.
I think I mean, I know we'll talk about it in our Steeler minute, our quarterback, but typically if you're over 22 coming out of the draft, people are skeptical of you. Um, there's not a good track record of 24, 25-year-old guys coming to the NFL as rookies and being, or, it is the rookie season and ended up being good pros. I don't know what all the analytics are of that, and I know that some of those are BYU kids that probably skew the numbers who probably weren't, you know, maybe NFL quality to begin with, but
Mm-hmm.
it does seem to be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I just don't understand it. I think I really like him.
Yeah, I do. It's another quarterback that if I saw it black and yellow next year with the Steelers, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I would too.
And maybe if he is viewed that way, maybe he'll drop to the Steelers in their 20-something pick.
Well, I don't know. If the Steelers play the way they played the last 2 games, I don't know if they're going to win another game.
Yeah, I mean, if they had 2 rain delays, but as of right now, where my dad is talking to us from a boat in the middle of the Mississippi, I am home watching the Steelers getting beat 24-3 at home by the 2-10 Arizona Cardinals.
So how did they score the last touchdown?
Our favorite, James Conner, just busted it in. He's had 2 touchdowns today.
Ugh,
And James Conner's impossible not to root for. So
impossible. What he's overcome. I don't know why the Steelers wrote him off.
I don't either. Yeah,
I mean, they had a bad offense, and he was part of a bad offense.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to the NFL, we did have some excitement today. The Dolphins looked absolutely dominant again. As they won, I think by 40. They won by almost 40 points today. Tyreek Hill had almost 200 yards receiving. Devin Achane blew up again. When they're on, they look unbeatable.
Yeah, they won 45-15.
Yeah. And like I said, when that offense is clicking, they were very hard to stop. They have so much speed. And, I know we talked about A.J. Brown, but we probably don't talk about Tyreek Hill enough. That guy is he's a legitimate, he's as good of a receiver as I've seen and as big of a field shifter. Because you cannot have him across from you and expect.
Yeah. No. Hey, you want an interesting stat?
I love interesting
Brock,
stats.
it's second quarter. Brock Purdy has not completed a pass,
I know.
and the Eagles are all over him. And I don't even think they have 10 yards of offense.
The Eagles are a really, really, really good football team. And speaking of fun football teams, we'll stay in the AFC right now. Houston pulled off another, last second win over Denver today, and they're just a very likable team.
They really are, and they're ahead of schedule. And DeMarco Ryans is a good coach.
He's a very
As
good
we've
coach,
seen.
very enthusiastic. You can tell the players love playing for him. They're my sentimental team, I guess. So you have the Steelers are black and gold, bleed black and gold, all that kind of good stuff, and then every year you pick one team where you just kind of enjoy watching them, and they become my team to enjoy just watching. Outside of obviously, everyone likes watching the Chiefs and the Eagles and the 49ers and all the great teams, but yeah.
Well, I've never seen the 49ers look this bad for an entire quarter all year.
No, but it's 6-0, so
And
right,
they've got -2
yeah.
per play.
But we've seen plenty of games where you watch the defense dominate for 3 quarters, and all of a sudden you look up at the score and they're up by 9, and not, it's not a blowout. So it could be very
Yeah.
interesting. And I think everything else has pretty much gone chalk for the most part today.
Yeah, I mean, it was an overtime where the Colts beat the Titans.
Yeah.
The Jets look woeful. I mean, just woeful. I can't even come up with another term to describe them.
We got some Trevor Simeon.
And he looked terrible.
He did. He did. And Aaron Rodgers apparently is going to be practicing now, which,
If they put him in a game this year, they should be shocked.
yeah. I don't know what he's even doing. I mean, I know at some point the rehab begins, and there's no reason you can't be rehabbing in a non-contact sort of way in a practice, but it just, he's 40 years old coming off this. I mean, I feel like you should give him, you know, he should be ramping up in the spring, taking minimal reps all summer, no preseason games, and then hope he just stays healthy somehow, right?
I think what he's tried to do is to stay around the team and pump the team up and get them excited about the possibility, but it's just not. They can't. They lost again. There's no way they can even make the playoffs.
No, I think, I guess it probably goes to taste, but I feel like he's kind of helped his reputation a little bit too with him staying around the team and
I think he's really improved his reputation.
because he went from being sort of the weirdo diva, taking mushrooms in a tent to try and figure out the football season to, being a very team-oriented guy that's on the field, on the practice every day. Like, I'm positive we've seen other players use that as an opportunity to be away from the team, and he's not done that at all. And I think, he's even trying to, maybe take some heat off the coaching staff by, you know, doing these interviews and popping up on McAfee and talking about how healthy he is and how he can start practicing. Like, I feel like part of that is focus on me, focus on me, focus on me, and then sort of let the team, breeze off that, I guess, if you will. You know?
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I do think, I will give him credit for that. I think that, he's a different guy. Although, we'll see him on McAfee a lot here shortly. And I'll still be trying to figure out what A.J. Hawk does.
Yeah, they're...
I mean, it's definitely one of the most confounding things I've ever seen in my life. Because they show the split screen. They show McAfee talking to whoever they're talking to. And they show a silent A.J. Hawk.
Yeah, he smokes a lot of cigars on that show in the clips I've seen. And he just... I'm not saying he is charisma less, but he doesn't scream guy you should have on TV, right?
No, not at all. What's he contributing?
Aaron Rodgers is his best friend, and he goes to talk to him, I guess.
I guess, but I don't even see him talking to him much.
No, I mean, I know McAfee's a bit of a, he's going to fill the space. Like, you don't have to worry about having a conversation be fulfilled with Fred McAfee around.
No,
right?
no question.
Like, he's...
No question, he's the star, and he's option A, B, and C.
I mean, maybe this is like a modern day... Who was the guy that with Johnny Carson? Was it McMahon?
Ed McMahon. But Ed McMahon contributed.
Okay. Yeah, he's just kind of there to just, nod, smoke a cigar, look menacingly into the camera from time to time, and then, mumble something about agreeing with McAfee for the most part. So, I mean, good for him. They moved to ESPN. I'm sure the dude's getting paid, and it's not like he needed the money probably before.
Oh, he's getting paid.
Yeah.
I think he's the second highest paid guy now after Screaming Anthony, Screaming Smith.
Yeah, he finally said, he occasionally says one or two things I agree with, but Stephen A. Smith, like, I just, I'll occasionally have YouTube clips on in the house, and Maria will come in, and she's just like, is that guy always screaming? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Like, just.
Well, on this vein, let me interrupt our NFL discussion for something else.
Let's do it.
One of the worst announcements I've ever heard is that the Mouse and ABC and HBO is discontinuing Brian Gumbel's show, Real Sports,
Yeah.
after 29 years, winning all kind of Academy Awards. I mean, it's just shocking that something that's really good journalism, really insightful stories, really great stories, really in-depth stories, but expensive to produce.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I just don't understand it. I mean, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's sad that that kind of journalism doesn't get more love.
No, because what we want now is we want Screaming A. Smith,
But I
and
think,
we want
yeah,
all those guys, the fake controversy.
and it feels like the people that say that they want the better journalism really just want to to hate watch the Stephen A's of the world rather than pleasure watch the Gumbel thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And I think what they want to is, they're just looking for dollars.
yeah,
And if one costs a lot and the other one doesn't cost much, but I don't know, if you're paying Screaming A. Smith $20 million a year, that seems to be an expensive show to me. Maybe I'm wrong.
yeah, but he seems like he's kind of he's got a lot of juice at the ESPN.
Yeah. Well, I do want to tell all of our viewers that next month will be the last show, and it's going to be like a compilation, greatest hits, updates, and everything else on Real Sports in December. So I would tell everybody to watch it and enjoy it and savor it, and then it'll be gone.
Yeah, and again, I know that in the ratings, it's still somehow Skip Bayless and Stephen A. are still at the top. Like all the people say they hate, those are the ones that are at the top. So,
I don't understand it, Jay.
no, the numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, and then the only thing I like that Stephen A. did come out this week is that, the whole Josh Giddey situation, basically saying I don't want to get sued. There's a lot we don't know. This isn't a race thing, which of course social media has made it into. And if you don't know that story, you can Google it. But basically, Stephen A. was attempting to be a real journalist and saying, "Let me get some facts before I go spouting off," which seemed ironic for him to say, but he was the one not saying it out loud. Good old Stephen A. Smith, everybody's.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite.
And the crazy thing is, he and Skip were on the same show, both screaming loudly at each other.
Isn't that hard to believe?
Yeah.
I mean, how could you have enough microphones? And everybody's Apple Watch had been going off with the decibel alert.
I know. And again, when I bartended back in the day at a sports bar that had sports on TVs all the time, it felt like the idiot at the end of the bar that everybody rolled their eyes at and couldn't stand listening to was Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Like, that's the kind of stuff they were doing. And nobody wanted to hear that. But when it's on ESPN, it's like, I can't wait to hear this guy. And it's like, you could have listened to that idiot the entire time. He's been at every bar in the country. He's spouting off dumb takes at loud volumes. A little bit. I know Stephen A's not drunk on the air, obviously, but yeah.
So on that note, I want to shout out to Booger McFarland for his analysis of the going back to the college football thing, because he said his four teams were Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and Texas.
Yeah.
And he said that's what it should be. Texas beat Alabama by 10 points. Florida State went undefeated, as did the other teams, and that should be the end of the debate.
Yeah. And then when he presents it that way, it does seem simple, right? Like, if these are the criteria,
like there's a no-brainer.
Yeah, like these are the criteria we've always gone with. Do you like 3 undefeated teams in the major conferences, and of the Georgia, Alabama, Texas trio is which one gets in? Texas had the most impressive win over the team that beat the other one. Like,
yeah,
it seems like if the committee could have just went, and we're done.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but hopping over to everybody's favorite NBA, like the in-season tournaments worked. It really has.
It has worked, and I'm surprised.
I'm
but
shocked.
I give them kudos. I'd have to say I didn't think it would. I didn't think it mattered, but they did it. They hyped it enough and made it different enough that it seemed like something worthwhile. So
I'm kind of looking forward to the games in Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, for games I probably wouldn't have tuned in for in December, I am interested in tuning into now. And that's all they wanted, right? And they won.
Yeah.
I guess, my only NBA stuff this week is I watched more Jokic, and he's just he might be as good as anyone I've ever watched during my lifetime at basketball.
He is fundamentally sound. There's no question.
Like he does, all the things they talked about, if you go all the way back to, the 80s with Magic and like how he makes everybody not just better when they play with him, but they start playing the way he plays. Like when Denver played the Clippers without Jokic, without Murray, and without Aaron Gordon and beat the Clippers on the Clippers court, you could see the same. I mean, it obviously wasn't the same skill level, but the team played the way they play with Jokic. It was still very unselfish basketball. It was still a lot of movement, and that
Hmm.
that makes up for any sort of lapse on the defensive end that he has.
Agree. But he's just phenomenal. He's so fundamentally sound. Such a great passer. He's the best passer I've seen since Bill Walton.
Yeah,
And a big man. A big man. Let me clarify that.
I mean he's so efficient. He can score from anywhere on the court.
Yeah.
And if you get yourself open in a good spot, he will get you the ball exactly where you want it, and that's phenomenal. And again, another special shout out to the T Wolves, who just it's a really good basketball team.
Yeah, and they're playing without Anthony Edwards right now, right?
Yeah, but they're
That was a brutal fall into the court, though.
it was. I mean, they're so big, they're so lengthy, they're good athletes, and when they're healthy, they're hard to pick against.
Yeah. I mean, they look for real. And and last year they looked okay.
Yeah,
Nothing special. And I think, maybe it's, everybody fitting in together, with since they had picked up Rudy Gobert and he hadn't really been part of it and everything. So, that's different. But I go back to what we talked about this summer. I think Anthony Edwards playing in that international tournament and really feeling his own and being the guy.
yeah,
I think that's translated back to the Timberwolves because, I think he was deferring to Karl Anthony Towns too much, and now he is the guy, and that makes a significant difference.
oh yeah. And then I think you add in that GM. I think he's been a little under the radar. I mean, the Rudy Gobert trade, everybody crucified him for, and maybe rightfully so. We'll see. Time will tell, obviously, but Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed, like some of the other moves they've made, that's a really deep team, and
Yeah.
they're really fun to watch. And then, they were also choked by Draymond Green and the 9-11 Warriors, who do not seem like they're in a good place.
No, not at all.
Klay Thompson has said the contract is a little bit bothering him, but at the same time, that guy's not Klay Thompson.
No, it's not. That's not Klay Thomas.
I don't know if he was, if he hadn't had the 10 years in Golden State and been the Klay Thompson we knew and loved, I don't think he's starting on that team. But I don't think you can.
No,
afford
it's
not
time.
to.
I think the GM saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to be the guy to break that team up.
Yeah.
And so he stepped aside and everything. And I think, okay. But yeah, they're not. They're not. And they need to blow that team up. They really do.
And then Draymond Green is acting a fool. So.
And nothing new with that. Only he's been more of a fool every year, and he's really a fool when they don't win.
Yeah. And then he goes on his podcast and tells it his own delusional stories about what actually happened, and it's like, no, we saw, we saw what happened.
Saw it. We know what happened.
Yeah. Well, the 49ers are now up 7-6.
49ers scored.
Yeah.
So getting dominated, now they're winning by a point.
Yeah.
So and they were dominated, and then all of a sudden everything clicked. 49ers went right down the field.
That's all it takes. The 49ers are they have so many guys that could just do so many things for you.
Yeah. Well, this is one of my favorite times of year. This is the FCS playoffs.
Yeah.
In college football. I love watching those wide open offenses that score in the 40s every game. It's women's volleyball tournament, and I bought tickets to the Final Fours of women's volleyball's in Tampa. So I'll be going to that week after next.
Nice.
But some really good. This is really good time of year. I mean, there's no college football now till the bowl games.
Yeah.
Except for Army Navy next week, and Army Navy is what it is.
I think you can still you're excited, get as excited as you can about it if you want. It's
Yeah,
obviously if you have people involved more so, but it's still a fun game every year.
yeah,
And we're starting to get Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday football coming up.
yeah. We're going to get a lot of football because the bowl games start around the 17th or 18th, and there's almost a bowl game, if not every day, then every other day for a while.
Yeah. And I saw our Steelers were flexed to a Saturday NFL game, so it's like we got all sorts of stuff
Yeah.
happening.
Well, maybe they'll unflex them now after today.
Yeah, they might have to. Um, well, let's have a little cruise update.
So yesterday we docked it. We flew into Memphis on Friday, and then yesterday was Graceland, which was never on my list.
Right.
But I will tell you, it's a sight. I mean, it's a sight. Bad fashion. Bad fashion, bad decorating. Some of the worst decorations in a house I've ever seen in my life. But and then we went over to Elvis Presley's Graceland, which nobody in the family is around anymore. So the estate has been sold and it's been run. And the highlight for me was the car collection. It was the most amazing car collection I've ever seen.
Nice.
In El Dorado, it had to be more than 20 feet long.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was enormous. I said to somebody who were looking at it, I said, hey, I heard if you could parallel park that thing, you get to take it home. I mean, it was so big. And it's just some interesting things to see. I mean, all his outfits were there. And, I mean, they have like over 1 million pieces of Elvis memorabilia. So it's pretty incredible. But I will tell you this. It was my all-time worst food moment
Oh my.
of any attraction that I've ever been to.
And that's saying a lot because I've been with you on some of these growing up, and there were some pretty bad.
This is the absolute worst. Okay, so you could go to. We ate barbecue on Friday from Central Barbecue in Memphis, which is really good.
Right.
So our choices were Vernon's Barbecue, named after Elvis's father, or Gladys's Diner, named after Elvis's mother. Okay?
Okay.
And the cruise was tied in, so you got a voucher to spend at one of these places. So Mom got a grilled peanut butter and banana sandwich.
The Elvis staple.
Which she liked the Elvis thing. Okay. My choices were chicken tenders, a burger,
Okay.
a hot dog, or pizza.
I assume you went burger, right?
I went burger, and it was heinous.
Oh.
It would make a high school cafeteria burger taste good.
That is saying a lot.
I know. It was just horrible. And as bad as the food was, the service was even worse. I mean, I couldn't imagine what it would be like there on a busy day. I mean, it was in December. It wasn't like the peak months of June and July.
Right.
I mean, it was like, you couldn't believe it. It took forever to check out.
Yeah. But how's the weather been on the cruise?
But that is now my standard. Is
Okay.
Elvis Presley's Memphis is the worst food I've ever paid for and eaten at a commercial establishment.
Well, maybe Elvis is angry somewhere about it.
Maybe he is. Now today, we were in Greenville, Mississippi, which is really tied into the music scene. And so we saw Steve Azar, who I've never heard of before, and he's really good. So we had like an hour and a half concert while we were eating.
Okay.
And the food was, and I'm not a hot tamale guy, but Mom is, and she loved them. So the first course was hot tamales. The second course was fried catfish, which was outstanding. The third course was the best mac and cheese I have ever eaten in my life. In fact, mac and cheese shouldn't be what it was called. It should have been called cheese and mac.
That sounds delicious.
It was absolutely phenomenal, Jason. I've never had mac and cheese like that. And they said before we went it would be the best mac and cheese I've ever had, and it was. Then we got a plate of pulled pork and ribs. and it was obvious that the pulled pork was from a whole hog, and that was delicious. And topped off with banana pudding. So both of these things were tied into Viking. It's just amazing to me that one could be so much different than the other one.
Yeah.
And it was outstanding. It was a great meal, and the entertainment was just phenomenal. And the Steve Azer guy, I don't know, look him up. He's written a lot. He's produced and recorded a lot, and he's really good. He's written a Mississippi State song and all kinds of stuff. His band was really good. They're really entertaining.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
I think my only food moment is Costco has these s'mores clusters. So it's graham cracker, they put caramel in it, marshmallows, and all covered in chocolate, and it's mostly chocolate. They're incredible. I would highly recommend those.
Ooh, okay. You know what? You have come up with 4 or 5 Costco things over the year.
I have. It's a very solid establishment.
Yeah.
It's also where we get our water and our butter and some of the heavier things you go through often. So, because in Louisiana and New Orleans we can't really use tap water, so we have to get bottled water. So that was
Right.
one of our big impetus to do it, is to get the big giant Costco ones.
Yeah. And then the food on the Viking cruise is just amazing too. I mean, last night you could have a grilled New York strip. You could have braised short ribs. You could have blackened drum.
Okay.
You could have grilled salmon. I mean, you have like 8 or 9 things you can choose from.
And it's all you can eat too, right?
Yep, and then 6 or 7 desserts you could choose from.
Oh wow, that doesn't sound bad.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It is really good.
Very nice. Well, we'll let you get back to your cruise, and
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you live and in person on Saturday as we go to GW Fins.
yeah, it's very exciting.
It is. I
Get
love
those
going to GW Fins.
drop biscuits all night long.
One of the best menus in any restaurant. I mean, I always have a choice when I go there. That's what I love about it. I always have to take 2 or 3 minutes and think about what I'm going to have. But I know that, if I narrow it down to 3 or 4, whatever I pick is going to be the right thing.
Yeah, and you talked about the poor service at Elvis's place. GW Fins
And
has.
that is incredible service.
Yeah, that's where your water is always full. There's never a crumb on your table. Like it's that,
No, it's people that know how to run a restaurant and do a good job with it, and just, I've been going there for 20 some years, and that's hard to say about a lot of restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely probably 22 years I've been going to GW Fins.
And they always make you feel like the VIP. I mean, every guest feels like the VIP guest at that place.
And I've never had a bad experience at GW Fins, ever, never.
And you're also going to try Commander's Palace on Sunday.
Which I've never been to, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right, well, you guys enjoy your cruise. We'll talk to everybody next week, maybe live and in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody take care.